Welcome to the Recon Directive, where we discuss current going-ons of the Pokemon TCG. This is Mark
Hello.
and Wave Racer.
All right. I know that this is technically your topic, but it's very funny because I thought about it a lot, and it is technically something that we have the objective truth to discuss, which is what is the most fun type in GLC, or the most fun types, plural.
And I posted a poll this morning about what the Tricky Gem's favorite types are, and it ended up being pretty much what I thought it would be, with Psychic being at 33%, Water being at 29%, Grass at 12%, Lightning at 8.3%, as well as Fire, and Dark and Dragon getting less than 5%, and Colorless and Metal not even getting mentioned in the poll.
And Fairy. We're
And
not forgetting about
Fairy.
Fairy. Dude, colorless is a scam. I'm so sad.
That's your favorite type to play, right?
Oh, it's absolutely my. Okay, this is gonna be the crux of why this is the objective truth. Because yes, it is my favorite deck, but there's more to it, I promise.
All right, we can talk about that in a sec. So Psychic, I've noticed the Psychic players number one yappers on the poll. Like some people are just like, oh yeah, I like water. But for Psychic players, they all mention kind of the same thing. I see in almost every response they're saying it's consistent and it has the most tools.
I mean, yeah, but like, does that make it fun? I guess for me, I thought about it like why on top, and it does have like popular Pokemon
Hmm.
because I think that's gonna play a little bit into people's liking of it because they're gonna be like, oh, I like Ralston Curlia. I'm one of
Mm.
those people, or I like Gallade. I'm one of those people. But also, it has like do a thing, get a reward
Hmm.
card. That's their quote unquote options. But also, it does have like Buddy Catch and every good card on the planet. So
Yeah, that's the reason I thought it was going to be most popular, because it lets you play the game the most often out of most of the GLC decks. Because you have Fog Crystal, Mysterious Treasure, like you mentioned, Buddy Catch. It's like you have a pretty solid game plan to do whatever the heck you want. And it doesn't even have to be like Psychic good stuff. You could play Lost Zone Psychic, which is a fake deck, by the way.
that deck is definitely not fake anyway. That
uh,
deck is really fun though. So maybe that's like 16.5% of the people are like, yo, we love Sableye still for some reason.
I like this comment by Z-Man Cuddles, where he says that that Psychic gives the player autonomy and skill expression. What do you think about that?
Skill expression, I don't know. That kind of plays itself, but it does. I think because you have to make like so many like line choices where it's like,
Hmm.
do I need this guy? Like your like evolution lines have choose your own adventure kind of vibe
Hmm.
where I need to do like this specific supporter turn and like that's probably skill expression.
It's funny that you mentioned build your own adventure, because those are the exact words that Icy Briar says about Psychic, mentioning that Psychic has a ton of options when it comes to deck building.
But like the cards are just so overwhelmingly strong. You're kind of just like freestyling on your opponent sometimes. And they just have to like watch you resolve like buddy catch 3 turns in a row before you inevitably vanish.
Well, the poll is about what's the most fun to play, not play against.
That's true. Wobbuffet's pretty fun to play. Okay, I'm conceding that. That card is very fun. You park that up front, and you get to just do whatever. It's kind of like it's like Badoo in standard.
That's true. I think that's maybe the biggest contributing factor to overall to which types are most popular. If you'll notice, water is second most popular here, and that is another very consistent deck.
It has more moving parts that feel harder to deal with because like if you don't have like stage 2 lines, your like deck is like way worse versus like
Mhm.
Xatu and Malamar do like a lot of work already, and then Curly by itself is like good. Like you can use them to get into basic guys. But then like water doesn't feel like it has as many of those. It's usually like beacon and then hope you found the Drizzle line, hope you found the Bax line. Frostmoth is not as forward as Malamar or Xatu can be, especially with
Mhm.
mystery energy. That's like natively in psychic and it's like usable as a psychic energy, so it gives you like the pivot ability to work with your bench a little bit more. That water doesn't always have. They like need a tool card to get
Mhm.
out. But water is one of those like it does it all. Because it does have every card ever, just in like a different flavor.
I do think that's the contributing factor to both of these decks. It turns out GLC players like to play the game.
Yeah, but like, why isn't colorless like right behind? That's what I want to know. Like, is everyone that upset?
So going back to what you were talking about, one of the comments on one of the water voters was that they have the most options to play what you want by Kirgomatic, who says their favorite water deck is Krabby Water Spread.
Oh, that sounds like the most fun deck of all time.
are, are,
Maybe second most fun.
I think a lot of the people voting here aren't playing like top tier decks. I think they're using the power of the engine of the Octilleries, the Zatus, to power their silly shenanigans.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So would you say there's anything more to talk about in regards to Psychic and Water being the pretty overwhelmingly the most popular decks here?
It should also be colorless because it's the exact same thing. It's just that had a super big target on its back, and everyone seems to have forgotten how much fun Squovit into Oranguru, into Vivero, into Shoes Minchino or Dodrio actually is.
I get where you're coming from here, because Psychic and Water being the best decks of the format, naturally you'd think colorless comes next. The difference between the three is, like you said, that Water and Psychic are kind of like freestyle decks. I mean, there's obviously more optimal lines than others, but generally each game's a little different, and I think people don't have as much fun with colorless, at least the version of it before double energies were banned, was because the perception is that you're doing the same thing every game.
Okay, that's fair actually. Now that I'm like really thinking about it, that's why I didn't want to play the fire energy build for like the longest time. I played Archeops.
For our viewers' information, Mark's Limitless page is 3 tops with Lugia, so Archeops
Oh
is
yeah.
very Archeops is very near and dear to Mark's heart.
I love that guy. That card's also like really crazy.
But I think the part of the enjoyment that both you and I get from playing these 3 decks is that they are powerful, and there is a desire within all competitive players that this itch gets scratched when you play a deck that just works like a well-oiled machine.
I'm like not afraid to say like winning is fun. Like winning the
Yeah.
game, it feels good, especially if you're both playing like a good deck too,
Mhm.
and like you do the thing. Ideally, you both do the thing. I actually hate whenever a game is like a non-game.
I agree.
Even watching it, like watching my opponent like achieve this like unbreakable board, and then I'm like, oh, what do I do? And then they watch me dismantle it and like achieve mine. Like I hope that my opponents are like, that was tight, and walk
Yeah.
away from it not thinking that was lame because we just like sat there and traded prizes.
There's like an inherent fun of watching like 2 masters go at something. Like even if you're not into sports and you watch a high level sports match, like it's exciting. Everyone's like cheering and like the energy is high. I feel like that's kind of the same thing.
That's exactly what I think about
It's
it.
esports. I think maybe to boil it down a little more, it might not just be that these decks are good and feel good to play, but their consistency and draw power appeals to card gamers, because card gamers love to draw cards. They represent actions, and Psychic and Water represent being able to do the most actions to find that answer in that math test metaphor.
That's like the smart way of putting it. Versus me, where I'm like, it's a math problem, and I'm just kind of winging it from there, freestyling, you may even say. And also, Psychic has the really cute Natu card. You know what? It just hit me. If Mimikyu is in Psychic,
Mhm.
there's gotta be some kind of collusion going on.
What do you mean?
People love Mimikyu.
That's true. It's a #1 in like popularity polls all the time.
That's like decks come in line. It's like someone's favorite is in there, and that's why they're playing that, and they're gonna gun for it forever.
That's true.
Because the like smaller percentage ones are gonna have like some random guy everyone loves, or that they love specifically, and they get to play it next to like the good cards. Every deck has good cards, but they get to like use the funny guy.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like Ralts and Curly are popular. Yeah, you know, they do have a monopoly on the really popular Pokemon.
We need some colorless love.
Colorless has cute Pokemon too. So for the factors right now, we have power, consistency. You can run the good stuff engines and then play whatever you want with it. People's favorite Pokemons, Psychic and Water, are very large types, and both of these types have very powerful plays. And that's what I want to talk about with this next most popular type, Lightning. So we have a Electric Spread user on the poll saying, "I love the feeling of sprinting through the deck and making sure the math lines up to take multiple prizes in one turn." Another big factor here is being able to do cool, bombastic plays.
That's the lightning thing. I'm unfortunately a lightning defender. I love my little funny lightning deck because I also have a spread lightning. But man, my brain a little small sometimes, and I have a hard time achieving. And that's where like the percentage drop off like shows itself. Like it feels like it's slightly missing something because I played the Raikou deck before the fiasco with that card, and like that deck was a ton of fun. It felt more akin to colorless in some ways, where like you're trying to like assemble to this like really like nasty like spear point head that just like dominates the game. How colorless was like if you just got to Snorlax like turn 2 and you're getting in there with a therapeutic, you just started running away. Raikou felt like that when you got there, and also it had the pretty energy colors in your deck because you had like the random grass energy, the prism and aurora. Like you were just playing like this weird slew of cards versus just like speed lightning and 6 lightning and a counter. Like it was super basic looking. And also I think in lightning's case, weirdly thematic that it has like the sprint through your deck like just throw stuff away, reckless kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, lightning has like a unique like rocking vibe to it. I'm just gonna come straight at you, and like the abilities do seem like reckless. Like Raichu deals damage to your own Pokemon if they have damage already. Zipstrika throws away your hand, and heck, like Electrode and Magneton give your opponent prizes. Like we talked about from last podcast, people like to feel like their deck has an identity that matches the type.
Yeah, lightning knocks that out of the park. I love that.
And you mentioned uniqueness in the energies, and one of our dragon users in the poll mentioned that they love like putting the pieces of the puzzle together with all the different energies. So I agree that water and psychic are popular because they're easy, they're powerful. But on the other side, there's kind of these hard to handle types like lightning and dragon that I think has an appeal as well.
For specifically Dragon, I know there's like two builds, but they both do the same multi-energy type thing because it's Dragon, obviously. But the basics one, like the Reshiram Fire one, that one feels really cool to me because it's Reshiram charging up fire energy, and like half your guys happen to use that color, but because you're also playing like the Raging Bolt now, the baby one, and even like Kyurem if it's in your deck has the metal in its cost. You don't use it, but it has it in the cost. You have this like rainbow kind of look to your energy and like your cost and your attacks. And I know that like if you look up decks online, you'll see decks called like Rainbow something, where they play every energy type. Or it's like in standard, you have Gold and Go playing Energy Search Pro, and you grab like the 8 energies, like that like flash of color. Like there is something there. I don't know what you would call it or how you would like really really psychoanalyze it, but it does do something to card game players, and
For sure.
I'm gonna vouch for it. I love that part a lot, which is why I'm going back to colors because I have to give it some love before we go to the types that are safe. I played the Fairy Fire list, and I saw Fairy Fire Lightning at some point, and I thought, dang, I should play that just because I get to play the funny colors. But Dragon does do that like the best, like absolutely by a mile. So that's like a nice little flavor thing, and also it's Dragon Pokemon. It's like the most like, this is a magic term, but it's like Timmy, where it's like the big stompy thing. So it's like, yeah, you get to play a big guy that does a cool big thing, and it's like he's the dragon guy that every 10-year-old wanted.
Speaking of stompy decks, one of the more popular of the least popular types is grass. I feel like every green colored deck in every card game does the same thing. And to that point, I have from Massive Caleb, I love playing a lot of Sage 2 lines.
That is the grass thing.
Let's play stompy guys.
Turfield Stadium and Grottle, they got the grass players. They got them covered.
True. Also, Jake Gearhart from the poll says, I love using Sundrenched Shell to search for my Thwacky.
There we go. Sundrenched Shell. Oh, I'll declare. There's many times where you're playing grass and you don't want to evolve that Grottle because you want a Sundrenched Shell next turn.
It feels good.
It's so good. And to an extent, Sundrenched Shell might as well say search for a card because that Roserade, that card is really good.
Yeah, another one of our poll users, Egg of Noble Arms, says the Grassmon searchers make any grass deck feel very toolboxy. And there it is again, the consistency you're talking about. I think it feels kind of bad to play a deck that doesn't have a consistent game plan. Like if you'll notice, no one voted for fighting here. And actually, even one of the Psychic poll users were like, I love Psychic because it's consistent. And then they put in parentheses, unlike fighting.
Aww.
So
any deck that wasn't given love, I'm gonna have to bat for it myself. I got you guys. Yeah, I like grass. Oh,
yeah.
Now I'm happy thinking about grass. Only because I have a funny deck I want to talk about whenever.
Yeah. Oh, I hate.
Yes.
Before we get into that awful, terrible affront to humanity, Massive Caleb also mentions grass is a great deck for new deck builders.
Yeah, that's actually. I remember I did have like a very standard grass list, and someone came to play at our local at some point. I was like, this is like the easy mode deck because it kind of just does everything and it plays itself and everything kind of just is, it's very linear. And I think that's a very very big help, like just having like a deck that does that, where it's like there's not a lot of, even though colorless is broken and you could say like this deck's really broken, it has like training wheels on it to a degree. There is like tiny decisions that make it matter more. But in grass, you're just making the guy punch most of the time at least. And it's like if it's Torterra, Evo pressing his way through 4 prizes on his own, or if it's any of the slew of attackers you have that are like Genocide, what's his name, Zarude, those kind of guys. Like it's very like straightforward. Like it's obvious what card is meant to do what.
At least the standard deck, it's like ramp, right? Like in other card games, it's like mana ramp.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I think that's the difference between grass and colorless for new players. Where maybe if you like Pokemon, if you explain grass as like, oh, you have these slower evolving Pokemon that get really big and synergize with each other, that makes more sense, I feel, than like, yeah, you get this Fanrotom and it gets
And
your
then
little guys, and then you play Snorlax and then you just keep punching your opponent with this. It's like it doesn't really feel like a Pokemon game adjacent deck as opposed to grass.
Squilbit is quite unintuitive to the naked eye sometimes. Like, why would I want to do that? And then it takes another step to get there. But
Yeah,
if your first step is evolve to Groddle and search for the next big guy, I
yeah,
mean, that seems like a blast to me already.
yeah. It's intuitive, and like, I bet new players are look at colorless and like, why aren't you playing Greedent? Like, you have the Squelbit here. Why don't you play Greedent?
Yeah, that's true.
A last note on grass. Jake Gearhart also says Relosaur is the only real grass deck. Anything else is fake grass.
I have to take personal beef there.
Tell us about your
Oh,
grass deck, Mark.
the most fun deck of all time, I would argue, is this very funny. It's dead now, sadly, but there's hope. It's funny grass spread, and you know this deck
I do.
technically does. I don't think it's ever worked,
Oh.
but I have got it to work before. Every bad grass card that could exist maybe in the deck,
Well, you play
because
it.
you're just doing grass spread, which shouldn't those that sentence shouldn't exist.
Well, you play that Flapple that puts itself back in the deck and deals 20 damage, right?
Yeah, that's like it. I think it shovels itself back in and puts 2 damage counters on something.
I mean, it's a stage one, and that's not bad. And you have the Sundren Shell to get it back every turn, at least the Applin every turn.
Oh, you do be searching, or you artisan, or
True.
nest ball even. If you need to, get the guy back, put 2 more damage. I think this is the pinnacle of what I was saying for like funny Pokemon that I like. Because it's like I get to use Hisuian Lilligant, but legally it is not great. Venusaur is much better than it. But when you do get to do Crisis Punch twice in a row, I mean, there's nothing like that.
And that's the thing. Grass has a lot of rewarding plays that it gets to do pretty consistently.
All on the backs of Sundren Shell. That's the real takeaway.
Hey, searching cards is good. Who knew?
Groddle is him.
Groddle
He needs
is
to be.
him. You heard it here. So speaking of searching, our final comments come from the Fire GLC players. From Gnarls_TCG, he says, smooth over, energy acceleration, fun attack, ton of swag.
That's a convincing argument. I'm not gonna lie.
I think this is probably the deck that has legally defined searching power through smooth over. I go back and forth on whether Smooth Over is kind of broken or kind of bad. Maybe it'll get better with a Rapidash that draws a card from Destined Rivals.
It's just draw a card, right? That's all it is.
Yeah, it's a draw card once per turn.
Oh, Macargo and Rapidash are about to like do like a super big dap up where it's like a seismic slam where you find any card. It's like Roserade at home, deluxe.
I mean, it's 2 stage ones. It's not bad.
But I know the fire people, every fire player, they love that deck. And it's almost admirable how much they love it. They will die on that hill. It usually is Smooth Over specifically. And I think that card's insane. But like that Macargo does a lot of heavy lifting. So does Salazzle. Because I think that's fire specific thing for its flavor where you can set up like your blacksmith combo and your Mela combos. And also draw 3, which is more than most other decks have strapped to something in a stage 1.
That's true. Draw 3 is pretty good. And you mentioned Salazzle's ability, which is discard a fire energy. And that fire energy has a lot of value in the discard pile with those supporters you mentioned. And that in a way creates this identity that we were talking about with this other decks where it's like you're throwing the coal into the engine.
I never thought of it that way, to be honest. And now that it's said that way, it's so much better than I thought it could be.
I'm so glad my English degree could be useful once in my life.
You really learn something new every day. That's actually so sick. Which is funny because I should have known with like blacksmith, welder, like duh. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, the fire deck has a really big emphasis on the fire energy, like the Charizard, of course. It's probably the most explosive card in fire. And there's kind of that recklessness that you were talking about where every big fire energy attacker needs 4 to 6 fire energies. So they do huge things like heat more. It just wins the game almost for you if you get that 6 energies on it. Fire also has a lot of popular Pokemon in it. You know, Charizard, the poster boy, if not for Pikachu, of Pokemon. One of our anonymous commenters says, and I quote, "My ape is in it," referring to Infernape.
Oh, there's a cool Infernape in fire.
And there's like that bombastic play again, and like the double energies are appeal to people. But you know, we came in here with the premise of finding the objectively most fun GLC deck. So what is your scientifically proven answer of what is the most fun deck, Mark?
Scientifically proved. I mean, it's got to be fire deck now.
Oh, really?
Look, they have tons of swag. That's hard to beat. I didn't see I didn't see tons of swag with Frostmoth or okay, Sundread Shell's kind of up there. Dang.
Mm.
I mean, if it has to be, that's science, right? It's probably grass.
You have the most fun with grass?
Because my funny grass deck, yes. But for the sake of seriousness, like honestly, Psychic, which is why it was on top. Like it does it all.
Yeah, like the 20 card or so core of Psychic just carries whatever the heck else you want to do with it, right?
Psychic has, like you said, the Lost Zone build.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also like Option City. Like Monkey Dory's a card right now. That guy's nice. And I don't care if you're a non-believer. Like Monkey Dory, Pheasantipity, the little basic one
Mm-hmm.
is in there. Like there's like so many random guys that can like slot into that deck. It's like art. It's like how I'm express myself. Like you get to like do your little psychic expression thing while doing all the things that all the decks do. Where they have their little broken little niche and their cool flavor. Psychic is out there, carrying the torch for now. Fighting in Metal Bros, I promise. Okie dokie not going to be alone for long. We'll figure it out.
It's funny that you mentioned the skill expression here, because that was also the comment from Z-Man Cuddles, who popularized the Crispin Monkey Dory bill. I think for me, water is the most fun deck for similar reason, but that Drizzile and Inteleon line just gets my brain going. It feels like every turn is just my opponent sweating and waiting to see which option I'm going to use to blow them out. Noctowl is just Shady Dealings 2025.
It is.
Close enough.
It is.
Welcome back, Inteleon. Water also has kind of that bombastic element of like, Wailord just has 240 HP. I know it's cool because whenever I show my casual Pokemon friends, they go, what? 240 HP?
They're on that pocket too much.
No, they all play Bucket, yeah.
Exactly. They're like, this guy's massive.
They're like,
He's
oh,
a big whale.
He's like an EX, right?
Is there like a Pokemon in water specifically that you're like super attached to?
Yeah, I actually really like Octillery because I'm kind of a Gen 2 head. Alolan Vulpix is also very cute. I think I fell in love with Wailord in the Sword and Shield DLC, where you're on that island and you just see that huge-ass Wailord in the background. You actually bring up an interesting point about also using Monkey Dory and like the Curlia from Standard back in the day. It's standard familiarity. So both of these, Psychic and Water, have a lot of elements from Standard. Do you think that's kind of an element in play for you here?
Yes, and I think you mentioned that. I think both those decks specifically have standard cards from like Sword and Shield era, which is like GLC Inception time. So like Shady Dealings being around, Bax is the new Rain Dancer, but like Frostmoth. Those are like cards from this era, and then like Monkey Dory now, the Curlia, cards like that were just like super strong. So people were like, oh, I get to play this in my deck. That does it for me. And I mentioned Archeops, like that's exactly why I picked Kolos in the first place, was just to play Archeops some more.
You mentioned the Sword and Shield era. That's actually when I first started playing Standard, and I was playing the Urshifu deck. So I'm just realizing now that like I had the Drizzile line in there, the Shading Dealings, and you played a different Octillery, but Octillery was there. I think that about wraps up our scientific research on what makes decks in GLC fun. They have consistency and draw power, which just let you play the game. Sometimes decks like Fighting just can't get off the ground and you watch as your opponent takes 6 prize cards. The ability to power silly shenanigans using powerful bases like Psychic and Water. They just contain your favorite Pokemon, Some people play Fire just because it has cool cards. Type flavor with decks like Lightning that feel fast and reckless. And familiarity from Standard with the top decks like Psychic and Water borrowing over half of their Pokemon base from recent Standard formats. Overall, I'd say these factors are ways of expressing your personal style or aesthetic in card game form. Do you have anything else to add, Mark?
Yeah, actually, that specific take of the self-expression is kind of where I always point at like a commander for Magic. I always referred to it as a board game where you like bring your own pieces. Because like you're just making a deck this is my deck, my funny thing, and like GLC is just that, but like in a 1v1.
Yeah, there's kind of a performative aspect to it where you have this idea in your head how your deck will be perceived by your opponent, and certain decks can do that more consistently or represent that idea 1-to-1 from the idea to how that deck is actually played.
Or it even goes as far to like show like your accessories and stuff too whenever you're playing. You got your funny grass deck with your funny grass sleeves. Really brings out the fun part. Those things also compound your enjoyment playing GLC.
Did you say accessories make the outfit?
And I love my accessories.
I'd say that about wraps it up for the most fun types in GLC. We'll see you next time on the Recon Directive.